Hello, Tony here, back on my channel once more on the Wednesday slot. Now, as many would know, today is the official OTS release of Yu-Gi-Oh's newest core set, Dawn of Majesty. And as with all core set releases, I have procured a box for us today to open to not only try our luck, but to also take the time to examine the archetypes and cards that come in the set and their potential for playability. Like many of the Series 11 sets, Dawn of Majesty continues the theme of providing a ton of legacy support for fan-favorite anime archetypes, while experimenting with a few new ones. Whereas the prior set, Lightning Overdrive, provided us support for Yuma's Zexal Weapon Utopia deck, Dawn of Majesty aims to support another protagonist's lesser-known strategy in Yusei's Majestic Stardust Dragon series. On top of that, the set also introduces further support for archetypes of the Albaz Saga, as well as several fresh new archetypes, including one TCG exclusive. And without a doubt, I look forward to covering some of these in the coming weeks in deck profiles, but for now, I've droned on enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the opening. So popping off the plastic here, I want to reiterate how this box opening will go for the newcomers. On top of just opening packs, I will occasionally pause as I hit certain cards to talk more in depth about their potential for play. I think this not only gives people a more informed mindset of the potential of this set, but it also gives ideas to players of what they might want to build. Anyway, popping this box open and setting up the display, we begin with our first pack. So, a little known information, the packs on these boxes are mapped, meaning that if we do get a secret on this side, the secret will most likely be on the other side, or in some rare cases, reversed on the bottom instead. So starting things off, we have a Despias, Theater of the Branded, a new Despias card for that archetype. Dimer Synthesis, a support for the Kremlin Critters, DD Dimension Derby, not a card for different dimension demons. Converging Wills Dragon, support for the Stardust archetype, a new Dino Wrestler support card which most likely is an OCG import that we will never play, one Doom Bear Psychon Pomphos, one Clavicus, the Magical Key Sky Blaster, a card we'll talk about later, new Alien support in Cosmic Slicer Zero, and one Shinobi Insect Hakaragumo. Going into the left side here, we have another Converging Wills Dragon, a Monster Assortment, a Dragonlark Parent, which is a series of new Dragon-type extra deck monsters that they introduced in this set. Interesting, not really playable at the moment. Flying Red Carp, a Beetrooper Scale Bomber, part of the new Beetrooper archetype, a TCG exclusive that we might delve into as we go through this set. One Shinobi Insect Hakaragumo, one Goki Finishing Move, the Gunkin Ship Ikura, which is a new Sue Ship archetype, partially a meme, but also very playable, and another Clavicus, the Magicky Sky Blaster. Alright, progressing further here, we have one Chronomaly Akambara Figures, part of the new Chronomaly support, one Aeropix 3, a fairy support, I guess? One new Spirit Monster, Spriggan's Interluder, a new trap card supporting for the Spriggan's archetype. This card actually is really good. It essentially allows you to bounce your Xyz back to negate monster effects or summon out another Spriggan's from your graveyard, giving this deck a lot of flexibility that I do want to revisit this deck in another deck profile soon. And a Magicky Magimusket Battle Buster, one of the ritual monsters for the Magicky archetype as our super rare. Now, seeing as I pulled this card, I think this would be a great time for me to pause right now to talk about the Magicky archetype. So Magicky is one of the two new archetypes to be naturally included in Dawn of Majesty. Centering around a normal monster in our Magicky Clavicus, the Sky Blaster, this archetype utilizes a hybrid of fusion and ritual summoning in conjunction with normal monsters and attribute typing in the field and graveyard to put up very aggressive fronts of negation and tempo. Now, obviously, the requirement of utilizing normal monsters definitely hinders this deck's ability to be incredibly competitive, but make no mistake, this archetype is incredibly consistent. Magicky World, their field spell, doubles as both a Rhoda as well as a searcher for their main playmaker in your Magicky Maftia. Maftia, on the other hand, acts as a flexible summon spell, allowing you to either fusion or ritual summon Magicky monsters, with the added benefit of allowing you to use normal monsters from the deck should you control a normal monster on the field, like your Clavicus. Their boss monsters, currently rituals and fusions, also have extreme functionality as well. The level 4s in our Magikey Magica Musket, Batos Buster, and Magikey Beast, Anciala Bolus, both have effects that generate advantage on summon, with Anciala Bolus adding back Maftia from your graveyard, and Batos Buster searching for any other Magikey card from your deck. More intriguingly though, they're also tuners, allowing you not only synchro plays, but also access to this very unique Hellspawn. Inversely, their level 8s acts as your main form of aggression. Magicky Mechmortar Gareglasser is a walking monster negate that floats when sent to the graveyard, while Magicky Dragon Andrabime is a Regeki that draws off of destroying your opponent's monsters. But limiting both of these effects is their very specific gimmick of only working against monsters your opponent controls that share an attribute with a normal or Magicky monster in your graveyard. Now fortunately, a majority of this archetype is multi-attributed to provide some reprieve to this, but ultimately this will be the major limitation that players will need to work around when building this deck. But regardless, the deck does have potential being splashed with other archetypes. Hypnocorn recently developed a Drytron build designed to summon out Archfiend Calamity on your opponent's turn to lock them out of the game. And there are some Shaddoll variants roaming around designed to take advantage of the constant dump to load the grave up with attributes for Gareglasser's negation. But even as an individual deck, this deck takes advantage of some of the best fusion and ritual support to make this deck utmost consistent. Things like advanced ritual art allowing you to use materials from the graveyard to summon out your ritual monsters, preparation of rites to search into your ritual monsters, or even high ritual art to ritual summon from the deck itself, giving this deck fantastic plays from different angles. So for whatever build you fancy, this is definitely an archetype to look forward to the future because this deck has a lot of potential. Returning to our opening, we continue with the left side pack, or right side pack. I'm bad with directions already. We have one Dimer Synthesis, one Slower Swallow, one Pazazuli, one Despian Tragedy, part of the new Despia cards, and another Magicky monster in our Magicky Mechmortar Glasser? Yeah, that. We already talked about this card, but it does actually work really well with the archetype as their essential negate. One Margin Trading, a Gunkit Sushi Daily Special. There's actually some really cool artwork and lore behind this that I do want to discuss another day when I cover that deck profile. One Sambel the Starbonder, more storyline for that Sembo Tarp, and the Branded Bond. Alright, continuing on from there. We have one Pazazuli, one Despian Tragedy, one Magicky Unlocking, another Konami Akanbaro figures, and a Ready Fusion as our secret rare. Now this is one of the more chased after secret rares of the set, as it essentially acts very similar to Instant Fusion, allowing you to summon a level 6 or lower non-effect fusion monster from your extra deck. Now in most cases this card was not going to see a lot of play due to the fact that in previous cases, Instant Fusion allowed you to summon things like Millennium Eyes Restrict, which was really good. However, in decks for example like Mermails, which actually utilizes Cross Sheep, this card has a lot of playability, and I'll cover that when I ever do a profile on it. We have Trimid Loading, Margin Trading, a Mythical Beast monster, and the Xyz monster for the Suship archetype in the Gunkin Suship Ikura class Dreadnought. Now, assuming that this pack is going to be the other secret, I'm actually going to put it aside for now and leave it till the end. But going on from there, our next pack, not including secret, will be a Slower Swallow, a Different Dimension Derby, a Tailwind of Gusto, a Chronomaly Esperon Glyph, and a Despian Proskenion, one of the fusion monsters for the Despia archetype. So this is a good time for me to talk a little more about the Despias. The Despias essentially are another part of the Albaz Saga, being the conclusion of the first arc, this being one of their boss monsters. They're comprised of both fairy and fiend dark and light monsters that have a focus on fusion summoning. However, what's interesting about this archetype is that they also are intrinsically linked to the Albaz archetype as well, particularly the branded cards, meaning that there's a lot of support for this archetype to not be played as a whole, but to also be played alongside Fallen of Albaz as a branded deck, something that I do want to do a deck profile on in the future. We have a Maze Attraction support in Viking Vortex, we have Branded Bond, a Gusto support in Gusto Verdeer, and another daily special. Alright, progressing from there. We have the normal monster for the Suship archetype in Gunkin Soupship Shari. Now this card, I'm just going to pause because I think this card is hilarious. So for those who remember the fiasco with Mech Knight Avram and the check this out flavor text, this is the opposite. This is the normal monster with the most flavor text in existence in the game, being an entire restaurant review of some guy visiting this area for sushi. I do suggest reading this card if you ever have a chance, because this review is wild. Another ritual or fairy spirit support. This Paparachi, a Gunkin field spell, a new Xyz monster, part of the dragon support that we had called Voldurnus, the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider. It does removal and boost attack, but it really isn't that good, unfortunately. A Majestic Absorption, Chronomaly Temple Triathlon, Doombear Psychompomphos, and another Clavicus. Now, we've gone through a bit of the box already, still haven't seen an Ultra, so I am curious of what we can get, but let's see. Apocryphy, a spirit monster, not going to pronounce it again, Brigand's Interluder, Slower Swallow, a new Gizmek monster in our Gizmek and Naba, the Hopping Hare of Hakuto, which is new Gizmek support for the archetype itself, playable but doesn't really have a good endgame at the moment. Gunkin Suchip Ikura, Goki Finishing Move, Baby Mud Dragon, support for the Mud Dragons, I guess, and another Sambel, the Starbonder. Alright, moving on from there, we have another Slower Swallow, a Pazazuli, the Despian Tragedy, another Gunkip Suchip Shari, Stall Turn, Raten the Heavenly General, and the new Fusion monster for this set. Now recall I opened Ready Fusion, allowing to summon any level 6 or lower non-effect fusion monster. Now this might be one of your prime targets, being a level 2 non-effect monster, but also a fusion tuner monster, allowing Ready Fusion to summon out a tuner for tuner plays as well. Something along the lines of Hauka Firebrax maybe? Anyway, continuing on from there, we have Beetrooper Fly and Sting and Magikey Duo. Alright. Next up, we have the Synchro Dragon from this deck in the Gaia Armor Dragon Shell, a Dragonlark Parent, I guess Synchro goes along with the Xyz, Alien Stealth Buster, more alien support, Monster Assortment, and a Magicky World, the Searcher for the Magicky Archetype. Really cool. A Chronomaly Temple Triathlon, a Margin Trading, a Master's Deployment, and a Stardust Trail. Alright, so since we got an Ultra there, this must also be an Ultra pack. Looking forward to see what we get. We have the Apocryphy, the Despian Tragedy, the Magicky Unlocking, the Glacier Aquamador, and the Giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas, which is the boss monster for the Beetrooper archetype. Now, I think this would be a great time to talk and pause a little bit to talk about the Beetrooper archetype, because I think this archetype, being one of the few insect-exclusive, TC-exclusive archetypes, has a lot of potential for the current meta. So on top of the many cool new archetypes Dawn of Majesty naturally provides us, the TCG version of this set also comes with a new world premiere archetype in the Beetroopers. Starting off with only 6 new cards, Beetroopers takes advantage of the insect type's natural affinity for swarming the field to amass material for powerful link monsters. What makes this deck so interesting to many right out of the gate though, is that while playable as a standalone deck, many of the Beetroopers also generically support the insect type as a whole, providing the typing with much needed improvements to their card pool. It's been almost 3 years since we received an insect-based archetype, and it's been potentially a decade since we received the last good one in Insectors. And I must say, these Beetroopers are looking to be very good. For one, cards like Beetrooper Scout Buggy and Beetrooper Scout Bomber provide very flexible swarming of the field to make their link monsters. And their link monsters are no slouch either. Beetrooper Armhorn comes built in with a double summon for insects while also being able to revive itself from the graveyard. And the card we pulled in Giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas is as protected as the Dragoons from targeting and destruction by card effects, while also being able to get insanely big or swap out your on-field insects for Beetroopers in the deck. This backed up by their Spell's Trap support, one of which is a once per turn reborn and the other being a Solemn Strike that also operates like a Solemn Great Roar. This archetype is poised to potentially do some very cool things with or without other insects to support it. Returning to our opening once more to conclude this set, let's see what we can get. We still have 2 more Ultras to pull. We have 1 Different Dimensional Derby, 1 Tailwind of Gusto, 1 Glyph, 1 Gaia Armor Dragon Shell, never gonna get used to that, 1 Link Apple, a card that has a number of ruling nightmares so far, 1 Master's Diploman, 1 Magicky Duo, 1 Cosmic Sliper Zero, and 1 Stardust Trail. Running along to the next one, we have the new Spirit support. Still not going to try to pronounce that name. Dispatch Paparazzi. 1 Sue Ship Field Spell. 1 Apox Pix 3. 1 Despian Comedy. 1 Beast King Unleashed. 1 Gusto Vidir. Another Amazement card. And a Baby Mud Dragon. So at this point, I think we're about halfway through the box. So at this point, we're probably going to be seeing a few repeats. We have the Aquamador again, the Jar of Generosity, by far the worst jar in existence, 2 Toads with 1 Sting, Slow or Swallow, Trickstar Festival, more OCG imports that we should have gotten years ago, the Chronomaly Spell, a Hakurikimo, a Goki Finishing Move, and another Ikura. Alright. Going on there, we have the 2 Toads with 1 Sting, the Suship Shari, the Akambara Figures, the Stealth Buster, a Beetrooper Formation. Now, I already covered this card in my discussion about this, but I do need 3 of this because essentially being a Monster Reborn, even for your boss monster, is a great card. 1 Mythical Beast support, 1 another Xyz monster, 1 Ikura, and 1 Goki Finishing Move. Alright, next up we have Dragonlark Perrin. 1 Stealth Buster, 1 Monster Assortment, 1 Glacial Aquamador, another Beetrooper Scale Bomber, now that makes 2, 1 Trimid Loading, 1 Beast King Unleashed, 1 Majestic Absorption, and another Beetroop Flying Sting. The roar of the deck, as they say. Except the cool part about this card, I should have mentioned when I talked about the review, is that this card resets itself but doesn't banish itself when it leaves the field, meaning that once it's in circulation, you have infinite monster negates. We have 1 Despian Tragedy, we have 1 Magicky Unlocking, Glacial Aquamador, 2 Toads with 1 Sting, the new Chronomaly support in Magella Globe, which is basically a lone fire for the Chronomaly archetype, 1 Stardust Trail, 1 Master's Diplomat, 1 Margin Trading, and 1 Gunkin Suship Daily Special. Alright, I think there's about 6 packs left, excluding the secret rare pack that we separated from here already. We have the Tailwind of Gusto, Spriggan's Interluder, the Suship Yard, Despia Theater of the Branded, a branded opening, which is essentially a E-Telly or a Rhoda for the Despia archetype. Really good given the fact that this archetype really doesn't have a lot of consistency otherwise. 1 Clavicus, another Alvarez, 1 of the Heretic or the Mythical Beast, and another Majestic Absorption. Okay, 4 packs left. 1 Flying Red Carp, 1 Despian Theater, Dimer Synthesis, DDD Different Dimension Derby, the Magikey Boss Fusion Monster, the Baby Mud Dragon, Master's Diploman, the Sam Bell, and the Magikey Duo. Alright, nearing the end now. 1 Jar of Generosity, 2 Toads with 1 Sting, Slow or Swallow, Tailwind of Gusto, Tindango Gerhealth, I guess they made more Tindango support, Doombear Psychompomphos, the Round 10, the Heavenly General, the Viking Vortex, and the Branded Bond. So, given the fact that these boxes are mapped, I'm assuming that these last 2 packs will be our last Ultra Rares. That, or I've already missed them all. 1 Suship Shari, 1 Akambara Figures, 1 Stealth Buster, 1 Red Carp, a Live Twin Sunny Snitch, which is the Rhoda for the new Live Twin archetype. Really good given the fact that in a lot of ways we needed more cards to grab into our Live Twins to get into our Evil Twins. Do need 3 of it to play this deck. 1 Sam Bell the Star Bonder, 1 Branded Bond, 1 Majestic Absorption, and 1 Chronomaly Temple Trithalon. Alright, Ultra Rare Pack time. Moment of truth. Or that, or we just got screwed. Glacier Aquamador, Different Dimension Derby, Jar Generosity, this Paparazzi, and the ultra rare for this side is the Protecting Spirit Logath. I believe this is fairy support, which is really good given the fact that we have an upcoming fairy structure deck that does support with this card, so I will be hanging on to this. I haven't had a chance to look into this yet, but I do believe there are some very interesting options for this card. A Gunkip Sushi Dreadnought again, a Raw 10, another one of the fairy tuners, and a Beetroop Flying Sting. Okay, last pack, last ultra rare. Let's see what we can get. We have a Converging Wills Dragon, Pazazuli, Despian Tragedy, 1 Magicky Unlocking, and a Despian Cortese being the level 8 fusion for this deck. Great, that's just another card I need for Despia. This is actually the one you'll be making the most given the fact that it does have a disruption effect as well as a float effect that goes into your Fallen of Albaz. Great for the Albaz deck. Cosmic Slicer Zero, Stardust Trail, Trimid Loading, and the Beast King Unleashed for the rest of the box. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the other secret rare that we separated. Hopefully it's something that will be good. That or we get a Starlight and it will feel really good. Guy Armor Dragon Shell, Chronomalius Bronze Glyph, the Akambara figures, the Dimer Synthesis, and an Aluber Jester of Despia. Now that is very cool. So Aluber here allows you, when normal is special summoned, to search for a branded spell, which in most cases not only includes some of the branded spells that Despia plays, but a majority of the branded spells you saw in Lightning Overdrive that supports the Fallen of Albaz deck. Combined with the fact that branded opening allows you to search this card, essentially gives you two different ways to get into your branded spells for the Fallen of Albaz or Despia deck, giving this deck incredible consistency in a lot of different ways, despite the general clunky nature of their fusion strategy. Furthermore, as I point out, this is a Dark Fairy, giving it some very interesting synergy with things like the Dark Lords, and that is a deck on its own, so this is very nice. On top of that, I feel the need to point out that this is probably the most value you can get out of this set at the moment. Aluber and Ready Fusion are the most expensive cards outside of Synchro Overtake, which makes this, I think, in a lot of ways, the most successful box as well. Wrapping up, we have another Alavain, another Mythical Beast, a Majestic Absorption, and a Suship Dreadnought to finish up our box. And that's going to do it for our Dawn of Majesty box opening. So, what are my final thoughts on this set? Well, while not necessarily being meta impacting as sets like Rise of the Duelist or Phantom Rage, I think that this set really sets itself up for future support. While widely infantile now, a lot of the cards you see coming out of this set will see further support in the next set that take their decks to potential new heights. Iris Sword Soul, a card that we did not pull, heralds the coming of the Sword Soul archetype, an archetype that is projected to be a tier 1 contender. Not only that, the Despias look to potentially make an impact in some way in conjunction with other fusion archetypes, and the Beetroopers have a strong showing that is expected to only get better in future sets with future support. So while you may have strong reason to pass on this set right now, I do recommend that you don't sleep on some of these archetypes, as they may become very good very soon. Regardless, my name is Tony Yang, this has been a Dawn of Majesty box opening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.